Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. I think we're going to give it a couple more minutes and make sure everyone has time to join the call. All right, Stacy, did you want to kick things off today? Stacy, are you there? Oh, she's having problems. Hold on.
Hey, Georgia. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I was having some technical difficulties. But yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Stacy Caceres. I'm with the Division of Built Environment Risk Reduction under Facilities Development and Operations with Palm Beach County. I'm joined today by our Division Director, Megan Houston, along with the Tetra Tech team, our amazing consultants on this project. Thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate your time, your engagement, the valuable input that you've provided to help guide this effort. After 4 years of hard work, we're finally in the home stretch, and we're really excited to share the results of our Resilience Action Plan with you and to hear your feedback. Yeah, with that, I'll turn it over to Georgia and she can get us started.
All right, thanks, everyone. My name's Georgia Vince. If you haven't heard from me before, I'm with Tetra Tech, and we are the consulting firm that has been working with the county on two climate vulnerability assessments and now the Resiliency Action Plan. So I will be giving you a quick recap today on where we've been for the last several years and where we're going. Let's see. With me today, I'll be doing a project overview, talk about the climate risk assessment results, the Resiliency Action Plan goals, as well as the implementation projects. I can take questions at any time if you'd like to raise your hand during the presentation. Otherwise, we'll have time at the end for questions and answers, and we really would like any feedback and input you have in order to make sure that we've captured any of your resiliency, sustainability, and climate risk concerns. With me today are several members of the Tetra Tech team, and I will be handing it over to Aaron Dede to support me in the presentation. But we've had a large group of sub-consultants supporting the project from the beginning, and they are shown here. So just to make sure we're all on the same page here, adaptation is the process of adjustment to actual or expected climate and its effect in order to moderate harm or exploit beneficial opportunities. So making sure that we are adapting to those climate risks. Assets include people, resources, ecosystems, and infrastructures, as well as the services they provide. We did a lot of data collection at the beginning of this project, looking for data on all of our assets. Mitigation is where humans intervene to reduce emissions or enhance sequestration of greenhouse gases. Resiliency is the capacity of a community or business or the environment to prevent, withstand, or respond to and recover from a disruption, such as an extreme event, a weather event, or even a pandemic. Retrofitting means modifying the infrastructure itself to enhance resiliency and mitigating those impacts from the risk. And the risk is the total potential cost of something of value is damaged or lost, considered together with the likelihood of that loss actually occurring. And sensitivity is the degree to which a system, population, or resource might be affected by a climate hazard. Certain things are more sensitive to these climate risks than others. And we've been working toward achieving these resiliency goals for the county to address these climate hazards. We look to implement strategies to mitigate the impacts of the climate risk, focusing on flooding and heat and the results of our vulnerability assessments, improving infrastructure resiliency or making sure the infrastructure is retrofitted to withstand these climate threats and ensuring continued service to the community and minimizing recovery costs. The third goal is providing environmental benefits to promote environmental health through green infrastructure, habitat conservation, and enhance resiliency and improve air quality. We really worked to ensure that this resiliency action plan was meaningful to the community. So we've had a lot of community engagement over the past several years to ensure that we've been able to look at projects that benefit low and moderate income communities, reflect the projects we identify reflect stakeholder input, looking to preserve cultural and historical assets, and strengthen community resiliency overall. The fifth goal is to streamline implementation of these adaptation measures and operational efficiency. So prioritize feasible and cost-effective adaptation solutions to simplify implementation and reduce operational burdens. And these were the main goals of the Resiliency Action Plan. So in 2024, we completed the Palm Beach County Climate Risk Assessment, where we looked at the assets throughout the county, and we evaluated their vulnerability to climate risks. Then we started the Palm Beach County Resiliency Action Plan, which developed strategies to protect these assets, and also prepared an implementation plan for implementing the adaptation projects. And we are also completed a funding and analysis to see if there are opportunities where we can take advantage of grant funding for these projects to be actually put in place. So the climate risk assessment that we completed in 2024 was the basis of the action plan. It assessed the impacts of the climate threats on Palm Beach County's unincorporated areas and the western municipalities, Belle Glade, Pahokee, and South Bay. And we evaluated the potential of impacts from heat, drought, severe storms, wildfire, flooding, and coastal erosion. We looked at the current and future extent of sea level rise, rainfall, and tidal flooding, and as well as storm surge through multiple scenarios, including a compound flooding analysis where everything happens all at once. And we utilized asset data from the local government and prioritized those assets based on communities most at risk and the sensitivity of those assets at risk. And this climate risk assessment was the foundation for the Resiliency Action Plan. Again, the top climate hazards that were identified were coastal erosion, where sand is removed from the shoreline, extreme heat, where things are hotter than normal, non-coastal or inland flooding, so temporary inundation of normally dry land. And then the flooding analysis looked at sea level rise, tidal flooding, storm surge, rainfall, and that compound flooding. So the flooding analysis that we did evaluated, as I mentioned, the unincorporated parts of the county and the western municipalities, and we identified 25 hotspots throughout the county. And that's what these numbers are here, that looked at areas that were most at risk. And then we did an evaluation of heat throughout the county. This is just a zoomed in look at West Palm Beach, but the dark pink areas represent areas that have recorded higher temperatures compared to a 30-year average. And then the areas that are not colored are not at risk or exposed to extreme heat. And the analysis, again, is countywide, and it identifies areas that are high, medium, and low exposure to extreme heat. So those were the two hazards that we really focused on in the resiliency plan when we looked at identifying projects. And we'll talk more about that as we move forward. I'm going to hand it over to Erin Dede, who's going to walk through the next several slides to talk about our assets. Erin, I think you're on mute still.
We looked at general categories of assets that align somewhat with what the statute requires for the vulnerability assessment, but we broke it out slightly differently. Parks and natural areas, roads and bridges, or transportation-related infrastructure, water, wastewater, utilities, government facilities, emergency response, and utility and communications infrastructure. So these are the broader categories of where the assets fell across the unincorporated county, and those assets that are located within the municipalities that are county owned and controlled that our communities rely upon. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. So the Resilience Action Plan builds upon all of that work in the vulnerability assessment, where we identified different types of hazards, we identified the various categories of assets, and we put together a plan of action. What do we do about it? And that plan of action is comprised of project recommendations and policy recommendations. But the entire Resilience Action Plan, the umbrella of that, was informed by the heat analysis, the vulnerability assessment that looked at flooding. We also looked at a pathway to get to net zero greenhouse gas emissions, which lowers costs and lowers the carbon footprint of the community as a whole. And the action plan has timelines associated with it and priorities associated with it. Next slide. And so the goals and objectives for the adaptation projects, there are a lot of them, but essentially what we were trying to do is mitigate the hazards that we see in the vulnerability assessment. If there were ways that we could streamline operations or decision making, be able to collaborate on funding regionally or sub-regionally on different projects, that was something that factored into the analysis. Making sure that there was community engagement, community empowerment, and community education about these measures and what they could mean for the community overall, improving our infrastructure resiliency to be able to bounce back from catastrophic or near catastrophic events, and then delivering environmental benefits and co-benefits such as reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, improved environmental quality. Nature-based solutions were also preferred over hard infrastructure solutions. So all of those things went into our evaluation and our ranking process. Next slide. So then if you want to broadly categorize and know what types of adaptation measures and how the projects and recommendations fell out. Next slide. I don't know why it went back. There we go. In those categories that I just mentioned, in terms of achieving the goals and objectives of the project, streamlining, implementation of adaptation measures and operational efficiency comprised almost a quarter of what we were recommending. Meaningful public engagement in safeguarding neighborhoods was 22%, delivering those environmental benefits 21%, improving infrastructure resiliency 15%, and addressing different climate hazards was 20%. Next slide. Now we're going to walk through a couple of examples of the types of recommendations, both from a project or policy perspective, that we're making in these broad asset categories. Preservation of natural areas. We also did a tree canopy study in this project. So there's a direct relationship between tree canopy and heat island effect. And we know that improving tree canopy within our communities is a good thing overall and delivers environmental co-benefits. We looked at shoreline policy, and that shoreline policy could include on the coast or it could include inland. We looked at redevelopment, installation of living shorelines and seawall replacement, mangrove island creation, dune stabilization, and beach renourishment for those areas over on the coast. Next slide. Community facilities, obviously, if we can install more shade, that produces co-benefits for both stormwater and air quality, and shade addressing heat island effects. So that was a good recommendation. Multi-purpose of our facilities, making sure that we can achieve more co-benefits than what they are designed to do. For instance, water features at parks can help with heat island and extreme heat periods of time, cooling areas for people to be able to access those. Emergency shelter upgrades, hardening facilities to make sure that they're less susceptible to flood risk, addressing flooded roads, making sure that our water and wastewater facilities can function during times of flood risk or power outages, and park enhancements were all recommendations related to community facilities. Next slide. Infrastructure and utilities. A countywide stormwater master plan was recommended to serve as a compilation of the various flood-related projects in one place. Septic to sewer conversions, lift and pump station rehab, which is something that the county's already been doing, but doing that at a larger scale to complete all of those facilities. Water facility hardening and expansion, talked about stormwater and drainage improvements for frequently flooded neighborhoods and roads. And one thing the county has been pretty successful at securing some grant dollars to do some of this already. And so continuation of those efforts would be really important in a continued recommendation. Next slide. Policy recommendations. So Projects is one element of this, but policy recommendations are another element of this. The county is about ready to start updating its comprehensive plan through the evaluation and appraisal process. And so making these types of recommendations to integrate this data into that comp plan update is a really good timing issue. And so we want to be prepared to be able to finish up those policy recommendations to feed into that process. Examples of what policy recommendations look like. For instance, the level of service that's adopted within the comprehensive plan and the code for stormwater management, and making sure that that accounts for tidal flooding conditions or addresses a condition like a 25-year event or a 100-year rainfall event, but making sure that that is achievable based on the flood risk and analysis that we've done. We will probably be making recommendations to the existing code that the county has relative to municipal service benefit and taxing units. And that is something that is in county code. It's a little bit of a misnomer because it's named a municipal service benefit or taxing unit, but is essentially a funding mechanism for either the county or a municipality to levy and collect an assessment to pay for types of improvements down at the neighborhood scale. So the county as a whole doesn't necessarily pay for adaptation projects, but those who benefit directly from them could be assessed as a potential strategy, or could be assessed a portion of that if the county were to secure some type of grant for the remaining funds. Landscaping regulations are important to be able to retain more water on site. There have been recent changes to state law related to stormwater management, and landscaping feeds directly into that. Shoreline regulations are something that we're going to be making recommendations on. So when people repair or replace their shoreline structures, they can withstand a higher level of flood risk that we know is coming in the future. Floodplain management, this is something that the county had a very lengthy workshop on within the last couple of months, in its floodplain management policy and participation within the NFIP community rating system. And so we will be making recommendations to assist with that effort and others that we identify in the comprehensive plan and code. We've already provided what we call a library or an index of sample policies that the county could consider. That's one element of it, are new potential policies. The second element of our review is analyzing the existing comprehensive plan and code for opportunities to make changes or reorganization or be able to integrate these new types of policies into the comprehensive plan and code. And then we've also continually provided feedback into the county's forthcoming resiliency element, which could potentially be a new element of the comprehensive plan that gets adopted earlier or either within the evaluation and appraisal report process. So we saw these things as an opportunity to be able to, what I call, bake into the county's policy framework the outcomes of all of this work that we've been doing. Next slide.
So Erin, there's a comment in the chat that asked, and you kind of touched that in a little bit, so I thought I'd bring it up. They asked us to describe the connectivity, if any, to the FEMA floodplain maps and the NFIP. So you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I can address that question a little bit more because that's always a really sticky thing. So FEMA adopts MAPS, flood insurance rate maps, that are a federal regulatory tool that guides how national flood insurance policies are valued or are essentially invoiced, to people. It's based on a certain level of flood risk, and we know that the county has appealed certain elements of the most recent flood insurance rate maps. And so though that process is a very specific process that is tied to federal law, the work that we've done on the vulnerability assessment and modeling different scenarios and evaluating flood risk is pursuant to state law. And the state requires us to model certain scenarios, model tidal risk, model certain levels of storm events. So we're it's a little complicated, but not so much, because we're operating under two different sets of requirements with this project overall. So generally, what we find is that FEMA maps can tend to be a little bit more risk adverse, because it is a charge for people in terms of their flood insurance, versus what we have in the vulnerability assessment. What we evaluate there are a lot of different flood risk scenarios, and the county has discretion in terms of, those results and how it wants to construct its facilities. But flood insurance rate maps are pretty specific in terms of relating to flood insurance policy and how that's valued and how that's assessed and how people pay their insurance. So I hope that it explains it, that there's, if an area within a flood insurance rate map is flooded and impacted, you would assume that that same area is going to show up in one of our flood scenarios in our vulnerability assessment. But we do not have to define our recommendations based on the flood insurance rate maps, if that makes sense. If not, I'm happy to talk to anybody offline about that relationship, or quite frankly, lack thereof.
Sounds like Leandra wants to continue to chat about it. I saw you raise your hand. You can.
Yes, I did, and we can chat about it more offline as the asker, as one who asked the question. We can chat more offline. I just wanted to know, once this document is complete, would we in our communities be able to use it in any way to support our argument relative to those areas? Like South Bay, just being selfish. South Bay was never in the map. We never had a flood zone. And when the 2017 maps rolled out, we were now considered in the AE flood zone, and all of our homeowners were impacted by that. So that's more so of why I am asking if the community will be able to use it once it's rolled out in any shape, form, or fashion to assist with those conversations. But we can talk about it more offline.
Well, and I can answer that really quickly. I mean, that is a great question. It may be something on other people's minds. I will tell you that FEMA looks at very specific models when they are evaluating those flood insurance rate maps and developing them. And when you go through a challenge or a letter of map amendment, which is, I think, what you're kind of alluding to, you're going to have to kind of, I hate to say it this way, but fight fire with fire. Like, there's going to have to be a specific level of technical information. What we did in the vulnerability assessment could assist in that, but I seriously doubt that FEMA would just blanketly accept the results of the vulnerability assessment. Because we were looking at such a big area, we used a tool that really looks at where the water's just going to end up on the land. It's not influenced by structure information. It's not an integrated model dealing with surface water and groundwater, which those types of models, for instance, may be something that the Water Management District has, with an effort that they've got going on related to the flood protection level of service. So that might be a source of data for you that could give you a higher level of technical information to have that conversation with FEMA. But I don't believe that the results of the vulnerability assessment in and of itself could be used as direct information to support a letter of map amendment or an appeal to a flood insurance rate map, if that answers your question.
Hey, Aaron,
It
this is
does
Paul.
answer my question, but as long as you're able to, it's a tool in the toolbox.
I
So
think
it
it's
does
a
answer
tool
question.
in the
Thank you.
toolbox. I do think it's a tool in the toolbox.
Hey, Aaron,
And
this is
I don't know
Paul.
how to lower my hand.
Aaron, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, your points are correct. FEMA has specific models they use, and theirs are exacting. Just for the good news is that FEMA has already scoped out redoing the flood insurance rate maps around Lake Okeechobee, and we should be seeing movement on that with a kickoff meeting in the near future. They were waiting a little bit for us being Palm Beach County to finish our LiDAR update so they could use that data. So they've already acknowledged the fact that the maps are out of date and they need to be updated. So there's no persuading them. There's just the process of them going through that multi-year steps of doing the modeling, doing the public notice, drawing providing the draft maps, and then ultimately adopting them. We'll be paying attention to that to make sure that they incorporate the appropriate structures and stuff like that, but it should be pretty straightforward.
Perfect.
Thank you, Paul. That's a lot of the information that the people around the lake are asking for. So thanks for that update.
All right. So again, we have plenty of time at the end of the call today if you want to ask any follow-up questions or set up a separate time. So one of the other elements of the Resiliency Action Plan was to evaluate greenhouse gas emissions and how the county can approach minimizing those emissions. And so we came up with a lot of recommendations associated with that, including for transportation, and supporting additional electric vehicle systems, expanding public EV charging networks, increasing transit service and transit-oriented development with electric vehicles, and then continue to phase in the batteries for the electric buses. For buildings, we really I think one of the biggest ways we can help is promoting energy efficiency, retrofits for existing buildings, and the county has a lot of infrastructure that can be evaluated to improve energy efficiency, encouraging electrification of space and water heating, supporting on-site solar installations, and aligning upgrades with equipment replacement cycles. So as equipment ages, it gets replaced with newer, more efficient equipment. For agriculture, encouraging practices that reduce soil-based emissions, including cover cropping, no-till or reduced-till farming, compost application, and balancing emission strategies with agricultural stakeholders and their needs. And then refrigerants and industrial processes, transition to low GWP refrigerants, improving leak detections, maintenance, and proper disposal. And combining these actions, we look to reduce emissions up to 99% in those types of facilities. So high level, the Resiliency Action Plan has several components. It includes the project description, the resiliency goals that each project achieves, a rough order of magnitude cost for the projects, timelines for implementation, a prioritization of those adaptation strategies, and a weighted evaluation of ranking, partners and lead agencies, whether it be county department or another organization that could support the project implementation. We looked at funding sources and potential grant opportunities to implement the projects, and are supporting the conceptual designs for 30 of the prioritized projects. So there's 3 categories for the projects. We have the early implementation projects, and those are ongoing projects that the county has already initiated. We have planned adaptation measures, and then we have the prioritized projects. So early implementation projects include the North County Shoreline Project or Beach Nourishment Project, Peanut Island Armoring Project, looking at the sand transfer plants at both of the inlets on the beach, the Ocean Inlet Park Coastal Resiliency Project, the C-51 Reservoir Phase 2, drought and water supply to the Loxahatchee River, the DuBois Park Tidal Lagoon, and then flood proofing of water treatment plant number 11. For the planned adaptation measures, these are kind of not specific projects, but things that are planned in order to improve resiliency across the county, is that harmonized shoreline ordinance that Aaron spoke about, and as well as the stormwater master plan, and increasing the urban canopy cover to minimize heat impacts, and that urban heat index, and then shade structure installation at multiple types of facilities, including parks and other government buildings throughout the county. So then we have our prioritized project list, and we have, these are not in any particular order. We have the Carlin Park Stormwater Management proposal, and this is a project that will add stormwater management to the property by using bioswales and rain gardens. We have a couple problematic roads where we're looking to improve drainage and stormwater management. We've identified some septic to sewer conversions throughout the county. The Western Regional Water Treatment Plant stormwater improvements for both of those treatment plants out in the western communities. We're looking at a multi-purpose building or a resiliency hub in western Palm Beach County. That would be an indoor sports complex, a community center, and would serve as a location where people can go if there's a heat advisory, where people can go after a hurricane or other type of extreme weather event, or just an opportunity, a place where people can go where they can receive certain supplies if there's a pandemic or other things happening. The L2 pump station is managed by Palm Beach County, and we are doing a resiliency study to make sure that that pump station will function into the future with the expected sea level rise. Lift station rehabilitation, so making sure that our wastewater systems remain operational during extreme weather events. The Westgate Community Center is a shelter, an emergency shelter, and so we're looking at upgrades to that facility. And then the Robert Wiseman Government Center downtown, looking at flood proofing that building there. And so each of these projects is going to take some time to implement. Some are faster than others, but we do have an implementation timeline where we'd like to see things, on the ground or in the ground over the next several decades. Of course, this resiliency action plan is somewhat subject to funding opportunities and those grant opportunities. So this is going to be a living document where we will update things as they get put into the ground. And I'll be talking about how we are going to track that into the future. So currently in process is this tracking, GIS tracking dashboard, and it identifies the projects. This is a very zoomed out version of the map, but the projects are all in this dashboard, and they are they can be updated over time as projects progress through design, permitting, construction, and finally operation. So it'll be used by department staff to update the progress of these resiliency projects, and then will also be made available to the public. So the public can stay on top of these resiliency projects as well and informed. We also have other information available. There's a couple of websites here, and I will provide, someone asked about the presentation. We can provide the presentation to you after this call, but the Built Environment Risk Reduction Group has their own website. And then we also have a specific page for this climate vulnerability assessment and resiliency action plan. You can, if you're interested, you can watch previous workshops that we've done along the way. You can take the climate risk assessment survey, and you can also click on the right-hand side to see the county's story map, which is a high-level summary of all of the hazards that were evaluated for the vulnerability assessment. And this is kind of what that looks like. That story map has, an introduction to all the work that we've been doing, and then it provides the results of the vulnerability assessment, as well as an interactive map where you can look at how sea level rise, extreme rainfall, heat, you can look at the tree canopy results and the wildfire threats throughout the county, and you can zoom in like any other ArcView, Map, or viewer. So that is it for our slides today, and we can take any questions now. I do have some questions prepared if you all are shy today. But we do want to get your feedback. So if anybody has any comments or questions, we can take those now.
Hey, Georgia,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Tammy Jackson Moore. Our newest city manager from Pahokee is on. This is her first time participating. I just want to make certain that she's comfortable with what she's heard, or if she needs an update on anything.
Welcome and congratulations.
We can't hear you, Tammy.
It's supposed to be on. Can you hear me?
Okay, we hear you now.
Okay. I said yes. Good afternoon. This is all new to me, so I will be reaching out to Tammy Jackson Moore to go over it more. I mean, I'm understanding what you all are talking about, but I still need clarification. So I'll reach out to Tammy Jackson Moore. I'm Tammy Bussey, the new interim city manager here at Pahokee. So I like what I'm hearing, but I just need more clarification.
And I can make the necessary connections for you, Tammy, with the staff and the consulting team that's online as well.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Not a problem.
Yeah, and we also are planning to be out in Belglade and South Bay later in the month for some public meetings as well. So you can catch us in person at one of those. We're still finalizing the announcements for that, but we will be out there, and if we can make an in-person meeting with you, we're happy to do that too.
Okay. Do you have the dates that you'll be coming out?
We will be there the is it the 20th or the 21st?
20th.
20th. Okay.
Okay.
And that is an evening meeting, Tammy. We can work with the calendars of those individuals who are coming out, as well as Georgia, to see if they can do something during the daytime with you if their schedule is available.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Leandre,
Right.
I don't know if you've jumped off. Are you okay, Leandre?
Someone is asking for location and I'm asking what time.
It's at the Belglade Library, and it's
Okay.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
But there will be advertisements coming down, Tammy. I'll make certain that we share them with each municipality so that you can share them with your constituents.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Leandre had to jump out and come back in, so she's back. He's back.
Leandre, are you okay with what we've shared, or do you need any clarity on anything?
I just to make sure everybody saw my text about the city of South Bay has a building, has a pre-designed building that meets some of those needs. So we may be able to assist more from a timing perspective. I do understand everything that was said. I understand the toolbox. Thank you, Ms. Jackson Moore. But just don't forget that there's a building that may assist
Sure.
you all in your timing.
Sure.
We already have some funding in place and already designed to meet those needs.
Okay, thank you, Leandre. And
You're
then
welcome.
lastly, Zatek or Joaquin, your engineer, if you are on, do you have any questions or concerns about what was shared today?
No questions or concerns, Tammy. Thank you so much. Georgia, thank you so much for this presentation. Would you be able to share this presentation with us?
Yes, we will. We'll send it out to those that were participated, and we are recording it, so we may have the recording available as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, I did want to have, I'm going to run through a couple of questions and maybe it'll provoke some conversation or thoughts from the group. Just real quick, you know, how well do you think the resiliency action plan addresses the needs of the most impacted populations in your communities?
Georgia, if I can, maybe this will help to stir some conversation.
Okay.
The cooling station concept, the community center, that piece that you spoke of would be very, very useful and needed in our community when we see the temperatures rise to the point to where we don't have spaces or places for people to go to cool down. That's very necessary. And then when we talk about it being a hub for possibly people to rent for meeting space and different locations like that, that would be helpful as well. And then, you know, maybe some sporting events that can occur at that location would be great for the community. And when I say the community, I'm talking about all three cities, Pahokee, Belle Glade, and South Bay.
Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, you know, we really were trying to target to make sure that it was an all-inclusive plan that focused not only on our coastal communities, which we know are going to be at risk to certain threats, but also our inland communities that could be at risk to extreme heat and flooding. And we did hear a lot of feedback when we were out, and of course in the summertime when we were out there in the western communities, speaking with folks about the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any thoughts on which projects might have the highest return on our investment, like the most benefit, the most bang for our buck?
Georgia, I'll kind of piggyback on what Tammy said. I mean, you guys are you know, the plan basically addresses and plans for the future. That's one of the things I think at our last meeting, and I think you guys came out sometime in the summer back in 2025, 2024, and that's one of the things that a lot of people talked about, and that was their concern at the meeting was the heat. And so having a hub, I think, will be very beneficial to all three communities.
All right. If somebody wants to see the list of projects again, can go back to that. Oh, here. Can you see that
Yes.
slide?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have the Carlin Park, a couple of road projects, the downtown West Palm Government Center where the courthouse is, the wastewater treatment plant, stormwater improvements, both of those in the Western community. We have 8 lift station rehabilitations, the L2 pump station to look at an evaluation to see if that needs to be hardened. The Westgate Community Center is a shelter near the airport. And then we have several septic to sewer projects that are planned, as well as that multi-purpose building out in the Western community.
I like to look at things, Georgia, short-term versus long-term. And I don't see any of these that could fit in that short-term window because, you know, they're going to be costly and it's going to take a lot of work. But what's important to us in our community is the septic to sewer conversions due to the water pollution. So I think that that's a big one as well for us, the septic to sewer conversions.
Yeah, we there's a lot of funding that the state of Florida does provide for those types of projects, but they are, you know, they do become a long-term investment, as you mentioned. You know, those aren't depending on where the facilities are and the lines are, it can take some time to get those conversions done. But
Tammy,
that I do think that those have a good bang for the buck because of the water quality concerns.
Miss Georgia, this is Vice Mayor
Yes.
Ambazon for the city of Belgrade. I know some of the guys that work for the Palm Beach County Utilities, and lift stations are a big problem out here. That some of them are very outdated, even in normal rain events here during the summer, where we get like that 4 or 5 days of half an inch, 2 inches, and then another inch the following day. The lift stations are very outdated because it's a very old systems that been out here 100 years, and those are like impact people right now because sometimes I even see where the county has to bring those suction vacuum trucks to help them out. So
Yeah.
those are impactful right now. I think that should be a priority. One of the priorities. All of them are priorities. Don't get me wrong. All of them are needed, but that's something that just in the normal week's rain I can't imagine if we get a big storm, 5, 10, 12 inches of rain, that's going to be, I mean, just catastrophic. But just when we get, they can't handle it. So those would be something that I would like to see, you know, across the whole 3 cities, very aggressive approach to that.
Yeah, we actually identified 8 lift stations that we're going to be evaluating right now. We're preparing conceptual plans for those 8 lift stations, and those are all located. I don't have a map handy, but those are all located out in the Western communities. But I know the county, and I don't know if anybody from the Water Utility Department is on the call today, but I know the county does have a plan to evaluate all of those lift stations out there.
Yeah, I see that Leandre has placed his top 4 in the chat. Number 1, septic to sewer. 2, the multi-purpose building. 3, hardening of the water and wastewater plants, and then the lift stations. Gina says that septic to sewer is important to neighborhood health and water qualities, as well as lift stations that are important during hurricane season and heavy rains. And then Keith, he spoke about the wastewater treatment improvements, and he says he's sure that that will give us a big bang for the buck.
Yes.
I do know of 2 lift stations that the county is currently looking into for design already out in Belglade.
Yeah, there's definitely a priority for the county. Thanks. All right. Let me just see if I have other questions. Hopefully the answer to this question is all of the above, but hopefully, so how would you expect these projects to improve your daily life? One thing that's not on here is, protecting public health and safety, and that's one of the main goals of a lot of that water and wastewater infrastructure improvements is really ensuring public health and safety as well. Tammy, are you talking? Because you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry, all of the above plus those that you
Yeah.
indicated, safety. And I think
Yeah.
probably safety can fall into the heat comfort, maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
One thing, Georgia, and I was having some computer difficulty. When we first came to the community, there was a lot of discussion about tree canopy. Did we mention anything about tree canopy in this presentation as it relates to assistance with heat?
Yeah, we did touch on it, and it is kind of an overarching plan for the county to help reduce that threat of the heat and those urban heat islands. So we did do a tree canopy assessment. We're assisting the county with some site-specific tree surveys to identify areas where tree canopy can be expanded and improved. I know the county has done a lot of work to do tree giveaways and will, maybe try to continue to do that over time. So yeah, tree canopy is certainly one that helps with heat as well as managing stormwater because the trees take up so much water. But also, as Erin mentioned, some of those landscaping codes that she's evaluating currently could also help, when with future development, when communities are expanding and how to ensure that the tree canopy isn't lost.
Thank you.
Was that part of this study or the vulnerability assessment, Georgia?
It's kind of was on the side, but we do have it. It's part of it is included in the resiliency plan. The assessment was done on the side, but the tree canopy, increasing tree canopy is part of the plan. Are we missing anything? That was kind of the last project, the last question about the project. Do you think there's something that we missed with these proposed strategies and projects? And if, you come up with something that you think we missed after today, you can continue to communicate with us on this question, but hopefully this seems comprehensive to you. I think it's a pretty comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I think it's very comprehensive, and it's a plan that we can add to, subtract from. So I like this plan.
Yeah, it was a lot of work that we've been, pulling together the analysis and now coordinating with the different departments across the county and just making sure that we have really tried to focus on the needs of the community and where we can make those improvements. So, all right, well, that's all I had for today. Stacey or Megan or Paul, Regina, anyone from the county have any other any other thoughts today?
Hi, this is Megan Houston. I just wanted to reiterate what Stacey had said at the very beginning, thanking you all for your time. And in case anyone didn't make the connection, Office of Resilience is now the Built Environment Risk Reduction Division. So that is who we introduced ourselves as this on the beginning of the call. But really appreciate you all working with us throughout the years, and happy to chat and discuss anything offline as well. And just wanted to appreciate your all's support and Happy New Year.
Leandre asked the plan costs were, if the plan does include the plan does include rough order of magnitude costs for the projects, for each of the projects individually. I think that's what he was asking. And again, we will follow up with the presentation, get that out to you all. And again, it will include in that the links to the different websites that were mentioned today.
George, I think his ask
Oh,
was
this plan.
the cost
This
of this
plan.
plan.
Oh, so the county received 2 grants. One was from the Resilient Florida program, and one was from the CDBG MIT program, Department of Commerce. And those 2 grants, were 1.4 million, I think, was the total project cost. That included both the flooding vulnerability assessment, the other hazards, the other hazards that we evaluated, the coastal erosion, heat, wind, wildfire, that vulnerability assessment, and then the development of this resiliency action plan. So it was all paid for by grant dollars. Yeah, so the Resilient Florida program for planning documents is 100% grant funded, and they also provide funding for implementation projects, and that is a 50% match. So if the county or local government wanted to pursue a Resilient Florida grant for a project, that portal opens in the summertime, I think July 1st. And that's an annual funding mechanism or grant mechanism.
And George, I dropped this in the chat. This is Megan again, just so everyone knows from Palm Beach County's side, Valentina Alvarez from Burr is going to be coordinating a flood workshop for Palm Beach County municipalities, which is to say, hey, we all have our vulnerability assessments. What should we, if anything, be doing to focus on implementation grants or adaptation action items? So we'll certainly coordinate with this group and invite folks to get representation.
Right. All right. All right. Thank you all very much for your time and your participation today. And we look forward to communicating with you more soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Appreciate it.